Hello guys, it's Blue Up 502, and we're going to talk about more Pale Moon stuff, because Pale Moons are awesome. I don't care what anybody says, Pale Moons are oh so awesome. So, last episode I was going to talk, I talked about Crossfires of Dungaree and Lukier. So since I like Pale Moons so much, I'm going to go ahead and talk about them, especially since they're going to make an appearance in set 9. And these are two cards in particular that I think have most interest for people who want to play Pale Moons. So starting off from this list is going to be Nightmare Summoner Raquel. Now, this card is very interesting. He looks really cool, the design is awesome. I'm going to go talk about then what I think about this card. Well, first of all, he's a double R, so he's not that hard to get. So he's about $3 in Japan. Probably going to be cheaper in America, who knows, we'll see. Not a lot of people run Pale Moons UC, so who knows. Anyways, going to go ahead and talk about the pros and cons of this card first. Going to talk about the cons because I like talking about the cons. So, first of all, it's a 10,000, which is already a big problem because it's vulnerable to most 20,000 attacks because they are common in this game, such as Burning Horn Dragon boosted by Bar. It's very easy to create 20,000, and even worse, some Vanguards could even create 25,000, like Great Dayusha boosted by Glory Maker. So it's kind of dangerous just due to the fact that he's a 10,000 Vanguard and shares all the weaknesses of being a 10,000 Vanguard. Second reason is because he has 2 Counterblast, which is kind of difficult to use in a Pale Moon deck because most of their rear guards use Counterblast, or other such Vanguards like Lukier have pretty high Counterblast, so it's really hard to fit this card in other types of decks, so you kind of have to just build it around this guy or other low-cost Counterblast decks. And lastly is, this card has absolutely no method of soul charging by himself. You'd have to rely on other cards, such as Nitro Juggler, Skull Juggler, and of the lot too, so you're going to have to build up a decent soul in order to use this card effectively. But the good thing about this card is the fact that his limit break is really, really good. It's pretty much the same thing as Garmor. When you're at limit break, it gets plus 5,000 when it declares an attack. So he can hit pretty huge numbers. So even if his opponent can hit huge numbers, he can hit huge numbers back. Secondly, it's overall a pretty versatile unit. It's pretty much another Garmor. You can pretty much throw it in any other Pale Moon deck you kind of want that doesn't have that high of a cost. So you can pretty much throw it even in a deck like Farah over here. You can pretty much throw it in any other deck you want and it will do a pretty good job. And lastly, he, like Garmor, has his own charge goal, which is Magical Partner. And it's a 21,000, so it's automatically a good rearguard or a very strong Vanguard attack. And if you do find a way to immaculate good soul, Magical Partner and Raquel hits huge numbers with pretty much easy cost since you're going to constantly be soul charging. So hitting 21,000 will be relative ease, and your opponent will actually be thinking of attacking Raquel. So that's a pretty good card. This is a pretty good card in my opinion. One of the best Pale Moon units in the game in my opinion. I mean, it's kind of just a Garmor. What else do you want? Overall, it's a really good unit. It hits high power, gets a unit from soul by counterblasting too. Overall, very good unit. Okay, so the second card I'm going to talk about is Starlight Melody Tamer Farah. I'm actually made a deck about her because she's really cute. I think the card is, in general, is pretty decent, and most of all, it's drawn by one of my favorite not famous, but I don't know if she's famous. If she's famous, then that's pretty cool. But one of my favorite artists of all time, Fumidori. Check her out. She drew Scarlet Witch Coco too, which is also an awesome card. So I'm going to go ahead and talk about this card real fast. So, cons of this card is that her effect is actually not as strong as his. It's actually a pretty weak effect. I mean, Counterblast 1 and a Persona Blast, I mean, you have to fetch it from the deck, another copy of her, and activate this effect. And the card that and the effect that you get out of this is not really that strong either. You only get to call a unit from your soul, and then it gets plus 3,000. It could be okay, but if you don't have a grade 2 in soul, then why not just play the Farah from your hand? I mean, it is a Persona Blast after all, so I don't know. It's kind of a weak effect, especially since it's a Persona Blast. Secondly, in order for her Persona Blast to go off, you need a good soul. If you keep on soul charging triggers, the only thing you can call is the grade 2 that you rode, and if you don't have anything else, then it's really hard to activate the second Persona Blast if you do happen to get it. Lastly, she has no other method of getting power like Raquel. she's just on her own with her 11,000, so it's kinda weak, and her Vanguard attack is not exactly the strongest in the game. However, as I mentioned before, she is an 11,000. She's one of the very few Pamela units in the whole game with 11,000 power. He has 10,000, Lukier has 10,000, Alice has 10,000, Midnight Invader has 10,000, even Barking Manicore and Mrs. Hurricane has 10,000. She can be an 11,000, but as a rearguard, she ain't no 11,000. She is an 11,000 as rearguard if you have to, and she's a very stable Vanguard, making it so that 20,000 attacks don't hurt you as hard, and being 11,000 is just super awesome. Secondly, she, with her effect, when she does call out a unit out of soul, she does get plus 3,000. So, like, for example, if I were to call a Barking Cerebrus from soul, it gets plus 3,000. Boosted by a Bicorn, it would get 20,000, which is a pretty good lane. So you could say that by dropping one card, you would give a unit plus 3,000. So in that retrospect, it's not that bad of an effect. Especially since late game, this could be very dangerous for your opponent, since you're going to be breaking really, really good numbers, especially in the end game. Lastly, she only has one counterblast. One counterblast. This is really good for a whole bunch of possibilities in this deck. For example, one of the combos I really like to do is Midnight Bunny, because Midnight Bunny boosting Farah makes an 18,000 lane, and because you're already using a counterblast, it's already not that bad, because she herself only uses one counterblast. So it's not that bad, especially since you're going to be unflipping damage with heal triggers, hopefully. So overall, the combos are really strong, but as I've said before, she doesn't herself get a power boost, so the Vanguard attack is really weak. In exchange for having moderately strong rearguard attacks. I think this card is actually not that bad. She is kind of weak due to the fact she doesn't have a power boost and she doesn't apply that much pressure. But Pale Moons have Midnight Bunny, Alice, and Mirror Demon, so they could apply pressure through that. I like the card, mostly because it's cute, and also because she's one of the few 11,000s that I mentioned. She does really well, though, with the Break Ride, because they both have 11,000, and if you do manage to pull off the Break Ride, and you do have the Persona Blast, then you can call Ava out of Soul, and then she gets plus 3,000, so she's a 14,000 attack, which is not bad. Especially since you can keep on swapping Soul, and they're both 11,000. As I mentioned before, being 11,000 is awesome in general, so it's really good. Plus, she Immaculates Soul, so this Break Ride card is really good with her. I think this is a really good combo. But until she comes out, I'm just going to be sticking with my own random deck here. So these are the two Pimwin units that are double R and will be getting released in Set 9. They also have a couple of extra support, but these are the main double rares that people are going to search for if you're a Pimwin user. So, with that, I'm going to say thanks for watching my video. In the next video, I'm going to be talking about my deck about Farah, a Farah deck discussion about that, because I really, really like this deck. And it's one of my favorite of all time, because it's pretty simple to use, and it's not that bad either. It's pretty stable overall. I actually don't use him because he used 2 counterblasts, and I want her to be the main focus, so I kind of don't use him, but he's still a good card in my opinion. So, also I probably, on a final note, I'm probably not going to be able to make any videos during the next week because I will be visiting one of my relatives over the week for graduation. So, maybe my friends will post something, I don't know. Hopefully they can do something, but for the most part, thanks for watching my videos, and yeah, I'll be talking about Farah. Get prepared to see more Vanguard episodes, and yeah. See you later, guys.